All right, thank you. All right, so ONNX 1.0 was released on December 6th, 2017. That was a long time ago. And apparently I was a release manager for it. I don't remember being a release manager, but if you go to GitHub, you'll see my name on it. So it was that so long ago. So we're currently on ONNX 1.14. So the question is, when is ONNX 2.0 and what is in it? When do we, should the next one, the next one is just going to be ONNX 1.15, but when should we jump to 2.0? So that's what this discussion part is about. And so that's a question I'm posing to you, and I'd love to hear from all of you kind of what your thoughts are. I have some thoughts, but I'd love to hear from you first. Yeah.
Why do you have to go to 2.0?
Good question. Why do you have to go to 2.0? Maybe we don't, and maybe we do. So generally, we can just keep going 1.15, 1.99, 1.102. Maybe that's okay. At some point, though, there's enough changes usually that it warrants making a major version update. I think we've tried to adhere to December. Different people may have opinions on how well we've done, but at some point, you do want to rev the major version if there are significant enough changes. And so that's why part of the question is, what in your mind constitutes a significant enough change that we want to jump to 2.0?
So being in the software industry for a long time, like for OpenCL 1.2, TensorFlow, when they jumped to 2.0, these projects sort of like slowed down because that backward compatibility was broken. Earlier you talked about minimum supported versioning, deprecating features. That can get rid of a lot of the cruft for backward compatibility. But when you just break everything, especially everything you've developed, that does end up bifurcating the community. Yeah. And so what would be the reason for going to 2.0 if you have a way of deprecating older features and you can sort of let things go?
Does anyone else want to respond to that before I do? Okay. I think a couple of things come to mind. You're right. Like, when projects sometimes move to a major version, it kind of slows down the progress, and we definitely want to avoid that. We also, backwards compatibility is going to be top of mind because we have such a broad ecosystem. Like, we don't want to necessarily go break things. So even if we go to a 2.0, what parts are still backwards compatible and what are not is something to kind of keep in mind and figure out. So I think it remains to be seen, like, what warrants that and whether, should we do it? Now, there's one potential reason we might want to do it, which is just around kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, marketing purposes, just to show that it is evolving, show the community that, hey, it is continuing to kind of evolve and keep up with the times. That could be one reason why we want to do it. But yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go for it. Here's a microphone so people online can hear it.
Yeah. I do agree with that statement. I kind of really felt that with TensorFlow when it went to 2.0, and in my opinion, that's because of the degradation in user experience. Because not all of the other, given it's all open source, not all of the tools and the ecosystem built around the 1.0 version move together. Some get broken, the user experience degrades, and that's kind of why the project slows down. And that's what made me nervous with Torch 2.0, and I really hope that doesn't happen. And the question I would ask is, outside of marketing, given that we've discussed about the downsides, are there significant upsides that offset this downside for us to push us to 2.0? Outside of our marketing is definitely a reason. It does get more eyes on it as things move forward. But can we come up with more reasons that offset this downside? Yeah, I'm also more nervous than excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm in the similar camp. Like other ecosystems had similar things when they changed to a 2.0 version. It meant something of, we're deprecating a whole lot, and this is a complete pivot. So everybody has to go and check is it really, how many things are broken and things like that. While the 1 dot increments, those are incremental changes. Yeah, there's some compatibility, backward compatibility on it. So if we really see a big change and addition to things, then it would be a great time to make that pivot.
So I have a quick comment on that. So even though generally a major version bump might indicate breaking functionality, but it's not a requirement. Like you can still go to 2.0 without keeping the same backward compatibility guarantee, so nothing changes there. But personally, I would see multi-GPU as, multi-device as a big enough step forward that maybe, that's grounds enough to say that, okay, now this huge chunk of new functionality is coming with version 2.0.
Yeah, I think, all the comments that have been made have been really great because part of it is just, do we want to even go to 2.0? Currently, there's actually no plan to do so, and that's why we want to have the discussion to see what the community felt. Currently, it's just, incrementally 1.15, 1.16, and so on. If we do go to a 2.0, I agree, Mike, that that doesn't necessarily mean we have to break backwards compatibility, and in fact, we should strive to avoid breaking backwards compatibility as much as possible. In terms of kind of some features that I think could warrant a 2.0. Multi-device support is certainly one of them, in my mind as well. Some of the things that were proposed and discussed today, like ONNX script, if that becomes part of ONNX and it gives you a new way to author ONNX models, that could be a part of the feature set of a 2.0 release as well. There's also some of the operator SIG work that was mentioned around kind of reducing the surface area, having a much more smaller, compact, primitive ops set, and having all the other ops built using functions. That work is in progress, but once that is completed, that could be considered part of this as well. But none of these have to be part of 2.0. Like even multi-GPU, or multi-node, it could be, but it doesn't. It's not required. Maybe all of these together are meaty enough. Hang on for the mic.
If you move away from protobuf, that might be a good enough reason to move to 2.0.
Yeah, file format is the other one that was on my list. There have been various discussions, should we upgrade protobuf? Should we go to flat buffer? Should we use something else? That could be one as well. I think we need to understand what is driving those decisions. I know in the past it was about the 2 GB limit, but then ONNX already supports kind of having external tensors, but maybe even that is not enough, given some of the new models, maybe you need even something different. So if there's a good case to be made for a new file format, that could be one of the things as well. Again, but on its own, that may not be enough to constitute a 2.0, but maybe that plus multi-node plus a bunch of other things could be.
One of the limitations I've seen in the ONNX specification is around data types. To get a new data type into the specification, I think we have to change IR versions. And then when we read a paper about Infor performance or possibly even a new type of Infor, it's not, I don't see a clear way of being able to use ONNX to deploy that. And as a result, it leaves a lot of literature it's just inaccessible to the ONNX community.
Are you proposing that if we have a way to solve that, that would constitute maybe a 2.0 worthy thing?
Well, I guess the hope would be that there's a way to kind of bring your own data type into ONNX, and if one could do it with 1.0, that'd be great. But I think that is a limitation, is the amount of time it takes to get a new data type format into the specification. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking around quantization and data types as well. For the problem you're describing, I don't know if we have a solution today. So if we come up with a solution, and then yes, we can see how it fits. Whether does it fit in the 1.0 or is it 2.0? Do you have any thoughts on how to solve that particular problem?
I don't know.
Okay.
About the
okay.
IR.
it's worth digging into a little bit more. Other thoughts and input on 2.0?
Yeah, actually, this is very obvious, but very little discussion in this group is large language model. So when version 1 was released some years ago, right? Obviously, type of models were very different, right? Like no transformers, GPT models. But today, like very few people like build primitive deep learning model we used to do like 5 years ago. So I just kind of wondering what kind of features kind of missing in ONNX to be more visible and more useful in the LLM space. So I'm looking through some supported, models, but there's some operators are missing, or just I kind of wondering, if anyone here is more familiar with missing feature for LLM space.
I mean, the interesting with ONNX is obviously the types of models have evolved since the ONNX started. But even with the large language models, it generally, so far, I think, and I'd love to hear if other people have other experience, it's come down to like any ops that may not be there, or the file size, to hold the weights that are necessary. It generally has come down to those. Like even, I think OpenLlama, for example, there's an ONNX version of that. DALL-E works in ONNX. There's a bunch of LLMs that work fine in ONNX. And so, yeah, if it's just an incremental thing where, yeah, we need to add some new op, then that's just normal course of business. If it's something more fundamental, then yeah, we'd love to understand what those are, what those limits are.
So another thought I had was around the training support. So I'm not following that too closely, but say maybe when you feel that the training support has reached a certain milestone, maybe that's ground for version.
Yeah, that was on the list as well that I had. The training stuff is interesting because there was a training working group previously. It's been kind of paused. So I don't know what needs to happen on that front. I know for the ONNX runtime, for example, there's been a lot of work on training, as Shama had presented about on-device training, and there's also cloud training. But if there's something more in ONNX that needs to be done to support training, that could be part of 2.0 as well. So was there someone on the call who wanted to say something as well? No? All right. Well, Mayank, I think we're running short on time. But I mean, this was a super useful discussion. I really value all of your input. Like I said, currently there is no active plan to release a 2.0 on a certain day or anything. But these are the type of things we need to think through as a community to kind of figure out, when or if we want to do that. So thank you for your inputs.
Thank you, Prashant. So folks, with that, we come to the end of this meetup. I want to thank everyone here and everyone who attended virtually for making this event a success. So thank you all for turning up in person, and I hope this was interesting for all of you. I also want to thank the webcast team and Judy and our volunteers for helping us hold this event at NVIDIA. So with that, I think we can bring this meetup to a close, and thanks again, and see you all in the next meetup. Thank you.